Despite having already seen 12 US national parks, this bottle made me realise I still had a long way to go. So I added seeing 6 more on my list of 25 things to do this year. Kicking off with a solo trip to the Dakotas in May, where I could add 3 stickers: Badlands and Wind Cave in South Dakota, and Theodore Roosevelt National Park in North Dakota. It started with an early Friday morning flight from Austin, a quick layover in Dallas, then onto my slightly smaller connecting flight and touchdown in Rapid City, South Dakota, where I grabbed my rental car, just look at that beast, and immediately headed east to Badlands National Park, where on the way I noticed a sign every minute for Wall Drug, a drugstore in the town wall just outside Badlands. What? 5-cent coffees? Brainwashed, I went to take a look. It was definitely more than just a drugstore, with loads of character, cultural history, every souvenir known to man, all your rancher needs, arcade games for the kiddos, and apparently the jackalope is their mascot, so clearly I had to ride the biggest jackalope I'd ever seen, until I saw this one. 10 minutes down the road and I entered park number 1 of 3. The first stop inside was the Pinnacles Overlook, and it was spectacular. I went down to the edge for a closer look and it was breathtaking. Kinda Grand Canyon-ish, kinda not. This is me in my Indiana Jones hat, proving I was actually there. Back onto the scenic loop road, and there were lots of little stopping points to admire the surrounding beauty. Just look at the colours of these formations. Back on the loop road to see more out-of-worldly landscape, and I decided to hike one of the most popular trails, the Notch Trail. There's just nothing like getting out of the car and actually immersing yourself in the surrounding nature. The hike was easy, not too far. That little stair climb was probably the most strenuous, and this is the view at the end. Not too shabby. Next up was the Fossil Trail, which started out like an Alfred Hitchcock movie. And honestly, the trail was underwhelming, but I did appreciate the dad jokes. Good one. On my way out, I stopped again at the Pinnacles to catch sunset, and boy, I'm glad I did, because I got to witness this. A mountain goat and her kids just out there free soloing. So, National Park number 13 in the books, with a decent amount of wow. I said goodbye to the locals and headed 90 minutes back west to catch Mount Rushmore by night, where I was greeted with the gift of free parking before enjoying this iconic national treasure. I used to marvel over this very scene as a kid while flipping through travel agency books about America. So I just had to see it again at sunrise, which meant getting up at Sparrow's Fart, but it was totally worth it because when I got there, it was only me and one other person. Her name was Kerry from Nebraska, and she took this video of me and my America Budgie Smugglers. Tough crowd. Her sister and nieces joined us later too. Together we watched the sun rise and glow up the statue, then I took a little hike to get a closer look. Pretty cool. Time to head about 45 minutes south to Wind Cave National Park. But the tours were sold out until 4 p.m, so I drove 20 minutes further south to kill some time at a little town called Hot Springs. I inhaled this delicious brekkie at Morning Sunshine Coffee House, tell Kim that Mark sent you. Then I had a stroll along the river and headed back to the park, ready for my 4 p.m. cave tour, led by our diminutive and edutaining guide, Ranger Liz. Apparently that small hole is the only natural cave entrance from the outside, which thankfully wasn't the only way in. Once inside, it was incredible to think these passages spread deep underground for over 158 miles, with even more unexplored cave. They call this formation boxwork, and I can't remember how it's formed, so just Google it. 90 minutes later, and the tour was done, which was interesting, but didn't exactly wow me. Now for a cheeky 4-hour trip across the border to North Dakota to spend the night nearby the final park of the trip. Not much to see except lots of green, although I was kept company by the setting sun in all its glory. At one stage, it even turned pink because of some smoke haze. That is not a filter, folks, I kid you not. Day 3 meant National Park number 3 of 3, named after President Theodore Roosevelt. And there was lots to learn about old Teddy, from his rough riding days to his time in the White House, but I couldn't wait to get on the scenic loop road to explore. First stop was one of many areas they call prairie dog towns, and for fairly obvious reasons. Just have a look at these adorable critters. I could have watched them all day. I even considered smuggling one back home. Time for my first hike of the day at Wind Canyon Trail, which wasn't strenuous but had a great vista. Back on the loop road to the next hike on Boycott Trail. These look like bison tracks, so let's not hang around. Let's quickly take in the view, skedaddle back to the chariot, and go find my final hike of the day to Buck Hill. Another fairly easy hike. Once I was at the top though, I felt like I could see the entire park. Absolutely stunning. On my way out of the park, I met some of the locals, including bison. Lots of bison. And once the bison let me out of the park, I headed for lunch at a little town just outside the park called Medora. There were plenty of restaurant bars, a fire station next to a town hall. They had a post office, a bank, and even lesbians. After lunch, I had one last sight to see called Painted Canyon, which perfectly showcased the essence of the park. North Dakota's only national park produced some decent wow. Time to head back to South Dakota, where I'd spend my final night checking out Rapid City, which was quaint and clean. That's my hotel, by the way. Highly recommend. Monday morning and time to fly back after a hugely worthwhile adventure where I checked off 3 national parks: Badlands in South Dakota, Wind Cave also in South Dakota, and Theodore Roosevelt National Park in North Dakota. Well, still plenty of parks to visit, including 3 more this year. Where should I go next? Let me know in the comments below.